after spending 4 straight days emphasizing the so-called evils of cancel culture during the Republican National Convention, Trump is calling for the cancellation of a Fox News reporter who happened to report something that doesn't make him look so good. So this has to do with the story that was originally reported by The Atlantic, where Trump made a series of statements about the military, calling them suckers and losers, calling our fallen soldiers suckers and losers. After that story was published by The Atlantic, then the Washington Post published its own piece, and they had different sources who spoke to them. And then that reporting was further confirmed by a Fox News reporter by the name of Jennifer Griffin. Now, just as a quick refresher, here's what she had reported last week.
John, I've spoken with 2 senior US officials who were on the trip to France who confirmed to me key details in the Atlantic article and the quotes attributed to the president. My source, a former Trump administration official, told me when the president spoke about the Vietnam War, he said it was a stupid war. Anyone who went was a sucker. The president would say about American veterans, what's in it for them? They don't make any money. The source said it was a character flaw of the president. He could not understand why someone would die for their country. Not worth it. Regarding the French trip to mark the end of World War I, according to this former official, the president was not in a good mood. French President Macron had said something that made him mad. He questioned why he had to go to 2 cemeteries. Why do I have to do 2? His staff explained he could cancel, but he was warned, they, the press, are going to kill you for this. The president was mad as a hornet when they did, according to this source. When asked if the president could have driven to the Aisne-Marne cemetery, this former official said confidently that there was not a security reason not to drive to the cemetery, which was about 40 miles from Paris. Quote, the president drives a lot. The other world leaders drove to the cemeteries. He just didn't want to go. Regarding the president's July 4th military parade planning, during a planning session at the White House after seeing the Bastille Day parade in 2017, President Trump said regarding the inclusion of wounded guys, quote, that's not a good look. Americans don't like that. Regarding Senator McCain, the president, according to this source, just hated John McCain. He always asked, why do you see him as a hero? 2 sources confirmed the president did not want the flags lowered after McCain died, but others in the White House ordered them at half-mast. There was a standoff and then the president relented.
So Trump didn't like that. And as a result, he called for the firing of Jennifer Griffin in the form of a tweet. Let me read you the relevant part of that tweet where he says, Griffin should be fired for this kind of reporting. Never even called us for comment. Fox News is gone. I did check this morning and Fox News, in fact, is not gone. It is still on the air, and Donald Trump loves cancel culture, probably more than any public figure I've ever seen.
Yeah, so if you go further right wing than Fox News, you're gonna get into OANN territory where it's just conspiracy theories and QAnon nonsense. And so Fox News has the right wing audience locked up. But now there is a house divided there. And so this is the phenomenon that others are not telling you about. And to me, it's super obvious what's happening. Roger Ailes has passed. He no longer controls Fox News. He used to control it with a hammer and with overwhelming sexual assault. Anyway, and he was a gross, odious character. There was nothing he wouldn't sink to, and everyone in the building knew it. So you didn't cross Roger Ailes, otherwise he would destroy you, whether you didn't sleep with him or you said something he wasn't in favor of on air. And so now without him there, there's just normal executives running it. And so some of them are trying to run it as a news organization. Ailes would have laughed and laughed. He's like, no, you schmucks. The whole point was to do propaganda for Republicans and Neanderthals. It's not to do news. We put news in the title to trick people, you morons. Why do you think we called it fair and balanced when we loaded it up with O'Reilly and Hannity and all those others? Now, people forgot what Ailes was trying to do. So some of them still remain the old guard, Hannity and Tucker Carlson and Laura Ingraham, et cetera, and they're still trying to do propaganda. Meanwhile, you got other people who are caught in between, like Brett Baer is like, well, I don't think we should cancel Griffin, should we? That's a reporter. I'm a reporter, kind of. And you got Chris Wallace, etc. And then you have a couple of real reporters there. So they've lost their bearings. They were built to do propaganda. So when Griffin, if Roger Ailes was still running Fox News, guaranteed Griffin either would not have been allowed to say that on air, or she actually would have been fired.
I also think that the conservatives on Fox News represent an old-timey type of conservative, right? Right now, the Republican Party has been overtaken by QAnon conspiracy theorists, people who don't care about evidence, don't care about logic, are not rational in any way. And I do think that people who work at Fox, I'm not saying every single host, Hannity certainly loves Trump, but I think the majority of right wingers who work at Fox despise Trump and are horrified with Trump. And so every once in a while, we do see them taking some justified jabs at Trump, and they pay the consequence with Trump's wrath, with his supporters going after them. But I do give Jennifer Griffin a lot of credit, because Trump has been directing all of his supporters to start harassing her. He's calling for her to get fired. Luckily, Bret Baier did stand up and call out Trump for his hypocrisy on all of this, including the notion of cancel culture. So let's take a quick look at that.
Have you ever heard the president use any of that language about veterans dead or alive?
I've been with the president to Arlington on Memorial Day. Let me tell you, I've listened to him there. I've watched him go visit sites there. I've been with him to the anniversary of World War II. It was a very emotional experience. So no, quite the contrary. I think this president has enormous respect for the military.
Well, the president also says he's against the cancel culture. But do you think it's right for him to call for the firing of a reporter who has unnamed sources who confirm parts of that story?
Brad, I really don't know anything about that, so it's just not something I can comment on.
Okay, well, he's tweeted about it, and obviously he says that he wants a reporter who happens to work here at Fox fired.
I've been busy on economic issues, to be honest with you. I focus on a lot of things, and as I said, on the military, I've always heard him to be 150% supportive. I'm just not aware of the issues that you're talking about.
I like that Mnuchin likes to confuse working on the economy with robbing the American people of their resources and paying myself and my buddies. But anyway, that's beside the point. Yeah, Donald Trump is a hypocrite. Of course he loves cancel culture. He's been in favor of cancel culture from the second he started campaigning. He's been advocating for all sorts of punishment toward reporters who don't just simply spew out pro-Trump propaganda. This is just another example of it. And by the way, Griffin 100% stands by her reporting and said that 2 of her sources are actually were top-level Trump administration officials. So obviously these are sources who spoke to her anonymously, obviously not anonymous to her, but they did not want their names to be revealed because we're dealing with an incredibly dangerous political climate. We're seeing it play out in the streets right now. So on one hand, I can understand why they would want to remain anonymous. On the other hand, I would have preferred for them to go on the record as well with their names. So any type of, I mean, look, I don't know, Cenk. I don't think that this story matters to anyone that it should matter to, right? Like, I don't think that his supporters care. I think that his supporters are gonna support him no matter what. I don't think they would care if they caught him on camera or in some audio recording calling fallen soldiers suckers and losers. I think that they would immediately change their minds and say, yeah, you know what? Fallen soldiers, suckers and losers, we agree. 100%, I think that's what would happen.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but so look, there is some number between 28 and 35% of the country that Trump could literally kill someone on Fifth Avenue and they wouldn't care at all, at all. They'd be like, oh good, the fascism has begun. With that, we'll get to retain our power over minorities and brown people, etc. Yes, I think that's 1/3 of the country, and that's totally depressing. But there is some percentage in the middle that is a small number, but really, really, really important because they seem to decide elections. And they do swing, and they swing in ways that we can't even quite understand because they consume such little news. So like the reason I say we can't understand is because You're saying the jury's in on Trump. How could you not know? How could you not know? But remember, they just don't watch the news almost at all. So they're getting it in bits and pieces and from only select news outlets. That's why Fox breaking ranks makes such a big difference. Look, the mainstream press already sucks. So do they ever point out the hypocrisy of not just Trump, but all Republicans on cancel culture? Literally never, never. So they're like, oh yeah, I can't believe how the left wants to cancel poor Ben Shapiro's $500,000 speech. Oh my God, we're all crying, right? And no one ever says, hey guys, you ask for people to be fired all the time. You ask for professors to be fired. You ask for reporters to be fired. You ask for scientists to be fired. The Republicans created cancel culture. They love cancel culture. No mainstream media outlet ever says that because they're scared of their own shadow. Oh, Republican voters are gonna say I'm a bad guy, right? So when Bret Baier says, hey, that's hypocritical. First of all, he's breaking the bubble of the Fox News viewers that have some small percentage who still have a chance of voting independently and are not MAGA. And secondly, he's actually the only one in media at this point, other than us, going, hey, you idiots, Trump is the king of cancel culture. And he's certainly not saying it that way, but that was enough there. The others, I don't see them ever saying it. So I think it does matter. I think that in terms of the veterans, MAGA guys will turn on a dime. You're 100% right. If it's on tape, they'll say, oh yeah, every veteran is an idiot and a loser. Well, hey, you're a veteran. I mean, whatever, dude, whatever. Yeah, I'm an idiot and a loser. I love Trump, I love Trump, I hate brown people. So yes, that's a third of the country. But for the folks in the middle, if they really actually believe that Donald Trump thinks that wounded soldiers and our fallen soldiers were losers and suckers, well, if that doesn't make a difference, I guess then I would say you're right, that whatever the percentage of vote he's gonna get, they were totally and utterly immovable.
And one other thing I wanted to just quickly mention is the fact that some very relevant people have chosen to remain silent when it comes to this story, notably John Kelly. So his former chief of staff, The Atlantic reported that Trump accompanied Kelly, who was then the Homeland Security Secretary at the time, to Arlington National Cemetery on Memorial Day 2017, while standing at the grave of Kelly's son, who was killed in Afghanistan in 2010. Trump reportedly turned to Kelly and said, I don't get it. What's in it for them? So of course people are like, is Kelly gonna say anything about this? And the fact that he hasn't denied it, I think is relevant. Same with Jim Mattis. Jim Mattis has also refused to issue any type of statement.
So look, that quote could not have come from almost anyone but John Kelly. How many people were standing next to John Kelly's son's grave other than Kelly and Trump? There could have only been one or two other people there. So John Kelly, grow a pair. Normal tradition says you don't talk. We're having a conversation about normal tradition. Fascists are about to take over the country. They don't care about our veterans. They don't care about the poor. They don't care about the needy. They don't care about the middle class. They don't care about anybody but people that go to Mar-a-Lago. And you're worried about normal tradition and you upholding it? Does Trump look like he's upholding any normal tradition? He basically spat on your son's grave. Are you gonna do something about it? Or are you just gonna sit there like a schmuck?
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.